Everyone, and welcome to the Section 3 recording video here where we're going to talk about evaluating the quality of feedback learners receive here in course D293. Remember, these videos aren't meant to replace the course of study, so do be sure to continue to engage with those resources and materials there and your course instructor as well. As we're going to get talking about Section 3 today, I think it's important to remember that assessments are more than just a grade, and we have an opportunity to continue the learning experience for our students, for our learners, through quality feedback. So the learning process should never stop with an assessment. It should always continue on, and we should take advantage and leverage the opportunity that we have when we're assessing performance and we're providing feedback to make sure we're continuing to support our students and our learners and help them learn and grow and achieve their goals and improve in their individual aspects that arise and that we notice and see through these assessments. The purposes of feedback are really threefold. We want to use this to support our learners, to improve their performance, but also to make sure that we have accountability and development going on within our students, within our learners, and within us as instructors and designers as well. So when we're giving feedback, again, it's an ability and an opportunity to continue the learning process where the assessment should never be the end of student learning. We always have this chance here to help continue the students' knowledge, their skills, and their abilities. And we want to take advantage of that by supporting our learners, continuing to build their confidence and their levels of engagement. We want to support their individualized needs and provide them with an educational experience that is welcoming and engaging but fits what they need throughout. We're going to recognize and show their achievements, and we want to make sure we're identifying strengths and weaknesses to, again, support those individual learners. And we want to support our learners so that they can continue to improve their performance. We want to be able to correct mistakes or errors that are made or misconceptions as they arise, and provide our students with very clear and specific steps of how they can go about improving on those weaknesses and how they can lean into their strengths to continue to help themselves grow. And when we're creating assessments and we're providing feedback, if we can be accountable and developmental, that's important too. And this is where things like rubrics come into play and clear directions and instructions. Can we make it very clear and apparent our expectations for student work before they go ahead and complete it? A rubric can provide specific feedback and direction about what's expected so that students can even assess their work on a self level before they put that in forward, and they can understand and sort of have an idea of what to expect from a grade if they apply the rubric to their own work. And then using rubrics and being consistent with our feedback and our assessments allows us to make sure that we're being very specific about how a particular grade was reached. Again, it's more than just a number or a letter, but there's a reason behind it. And we can then use this to help us continue to improve our assessments and our teaching practices and design practices as well. Quality feedback is going to have three main characteristics, and we want to make sure that all of our feedback follows these three specific characteristics. The first one, being specific, is where we're telling learners exactly what they need to improve on. The more precise we can be, the more detailed we can be, the better here. We want to identify the exact task, knowledge, skill, ability, behavior that was in an assessment that we want to improve. Again, the more specific we can be, the better our student learning is going to be throughout this process. So avoid that vague or very general statements and be very specific about it. So if a student was writing an essay and they need to improve their thesis statement, let's be specific and tell them exactly what about their thesis statement we need them to improve on. We also want our quality feedback to be actionable, and this is where we tell our learners how to improve. So there's really an action that needs to be taken here by the student. We're providing them with that direction and that feedback for what that action might be, and it's up to the student to then take that action, or the learner to take that action. So we're offering suggestions here, we're trying to offer guidance, and we're trying to provide resources and actions that can be taken that will continue the learning process in meaningful ways to that particular student based on their performance. So again, if the issue might be with the thesis statement, here's where in our feedback we might provide a YouTube video that goes over how to draft and write good thesis statements, and we might direct our students to watch that video as a supplemental resource to continue their learning of thesis statements. And then we always want to make sure our feedback is also timely, and that just means the sooner we get that back, the more effective it's going to be. When we get feedback, when we get scores, when we get specific and actionable items in a timely manner, things are still fresh in the minds of our learners, and it's able to be corrected before it becomes ingrained in the mind. And it's also going to be more relevant to them because they're going to remember, okay, this is exactly what I was thinking when I wrote that thesis statement. This is why I did this and no, I didn't do that. Where can I then make those improvements? And we're able to reflect on that performance with this information, and we can make those adjustments for moving forward. The longer we wait, the less relevant that feedback becomes because we're just simply not going to remember it. It won't be as fresh, and we're going to lose out on that opportunity to correct that behavior right away. When we give feedback, there's multiple different levels of feedback, and this is where we're going to sort of target very specific aspects of things. The first one here is being task level feedback, and task level feedback is really about what's sort of right and wrong here. We're trying to correct very specific tasks, and this is going to be based on that particular learning activity that was performed. So this is, a right and a wrong on a true, false, or multiple choice question. It's based on the specific task that was created in a project or an essay or an activity, but it's very concrete and objective. So we want to make sure that we're explaining right away how we can correct this, what you got wrong, and what you need to do to improve here. And it's all about improving sort of that outcome as it relates to the content. Then we have the process level feedback, and this is all about sort of the larger process that's being taken as we work through this particular assessment in these topics. So we're going to try to advise our students here on ways to improve that overall method and the strategies that they're using to create their work. So we're focused here more on that larger idea of the process that's being taken. So we want to try to understand the skills and the thought process that goes on and how we can improve that with new methods, strategies, or techniques so that we can effectively process through these things moving forward again on the next assessment. Regulatory level feedback, also called self-regulation sometimes, helps us to monitor our own particular work, and we want to make those adjustments. This is all about our students gaining the skills and the abilities to look at their work on their own in sort of the self-regulation level, where they're going to try to, direct their own work and think about the way that they're doing things here and how can we make sure that we're working towards improved outcomes. And we're really trying to get our students to think about their own work and their own learning, their own habits, their strategies, what they've done in the past and what they need to do moving forward in order to improve. Then we have the self-level feedback, which is going to be much more about the internal identity and more of a emotional or motivational type of feedback. So this is going to be feedback that sometimes can be very helpful to folks because it's important that we're motivated and we're engaged, and that's what we want to go after here is sort of those self-esteem and improving confidence and reinforcing the idea that our students and our learners can continue to learn and improve here. But if it's only self-level feedback, saying things like good job or not quite there yet isn't going to necessarily be quality feedback. So we still want to make sure that we're giving those other levels of feedback as well, in addition to this self-level feedback. Whenever we give feedback, we want to make sure that feedback is aligned. Alignment's always important with everything that we do in instructional design, and feedback's no different. When we give feedback, it's going to be on assessments, and hopefully those assessments are aligned to the learning goals and objectives that we've created, and that they're also aligned with the teaching and the learning activities that we've been through. But we want to tie all these bits together within our feedback. So how do we do that? We can always point our students towards these things. When we give feedback, we want to be continually directing our students towards achieving those learning goals and outcomes. What's going to help them get to that goal? That's what they need to know in their feedback. That feedback should be related directly to the assessment that we're providing it on so that it's relevant based on what they just completed and what maybe is to come next. And whenever we can tie our feedback back to teaching and learning activities that have happened in the past or link it to things that will happen in the future, that's really important too because we're building that connection and building on that alignment. So we can do things here like, remember when we talked about this last week or in the previous module on lesson number 2, we covered this topic. So we're being very specific here and aligning things so that our learners can build connections and bridge gaps. Make sure again you engage with the material and the course tips and those resources in the course of study to continue to work through section 3 and all of the sections of this course. And don't hesitate to reach out to your course instructor to set up a call or ask questions. We're always here to help. You take care.